tomorrow is actually the day of Govardhana Pūjā.
Mañana es, de hecho, el día de Govardhana Pūjā.
The day that's called Govardhana Pūjā.
Así se le llama el día, Govardhana Pūjā.
But today, particularly today at Govardhan Hill in India, there are, I don't know, 3/4, maybe 1 million people. I don't know.
Pero hay como 1 millón de personas allá en India, en Govardhan.
Govardhan is worship. Puja means worship, but Govardhan is worshipped every day, and particularly in Vṛndāvana, and particularly in Govardhan town, the town known as Govardhana.
Se adora en toda la India, pero particularmente ahí en donde está Govardhan.
So, who here has been to Govardhan and been there? Govardhan? Okay.
¿Quién ha estado en la colina de Govardhan?
Sí, bueno. So Govardhan is 7 kilometers long.
Govardhan tiene 7 kilómetros de largo.
And the circumambulation means walking around Govardhan is approximately 14 kilometers.
Y el caminar alrededor de la colina, aproximadamente unos 14 kilómetros.
I think nowadays at its highest point, at its tallest point, it is maybe 60 meters tall.
Que ahorita en su punto más alto tiene como 60 metros, a lo máximo.
And, but many thousands of years ago,
muchos miles de años atrás.
Well, it kind of, Govardhan Hill, if you go on Google Earth, you can see Govardhan Hill. You know?
¿Sí?
And it's kind of like a north-south. Not exactly, but it's kind of like a north-south.
Y si vamos al Google Earth, podemos ver que a lo largo está apuntando hacia el norte y sur. No exactamente, pero algo así.
At the northern end is Radhakund and Shamakund.
Al norte está Radhakund y Shamakund.
So that means the sun rises this way in the east and sets in the west.
El sol sale del este y se mete por el oeste.
So in the time of Krishna-līlā, when the sun went into the west,
en el tiempo de Krishna-līlā, el sol se mete por el oeste.
The shadow of Govardhan Hill used to reach Mathura, which is 30 or 40 kilometers away.
La sombra de Govardhan solía alcanzar un poco lo que es Mathura.
So Govardhan was a very big hill during the Krishna-līlā.
Entonces Govardhan en el Krishna-līlā era muy alta, estaba muy alta.
But due to separation, well, actually there are different stories. Govardhan is reduced. They say that Govardhan reduces the size of a mustard seed every day, or every year, whatever.
Se dice que cada día, cada año, se está reduciendo como el tamaño de una semilla de mostaza, lo que es la colina.
And as in all the Puranic stories, and there's curses and counter curses, and you follow these stories back, you'll just get lost. But there are many different stories about Govardhan, where Govardhan came from, how Govardhan came to Vṛndāvana.
Hay muchas historias en los Puranas que de hecho si los seguimos podemos quedar como un poco locos, pero muchas historias de dónde viene todo y así sucesivamente.
So in the Vaishnava tradition, we follow some of the Gaudiya Vaiṣṇava tradition. In the Puranic tradition, there's other emphasis. There are many stories, but all the stories are not followed by everyone.
Que hay muchas historias en la tradición Vaishnava y otras en los Puranas, y no es que todos sigamos todo lo mismo.
So Govardhan has been reducing in size, and some people say it's because of a curse. Curse.
Ya. Y que entonces se dice que se ha reducido el tamaño de la colina porque le cayó una maldición.
So somehow that story never settled very well with me. I thought, cursing Govardhan? Just didn't add up in my thinking.
Que eso como que no encaja con Guru Maharaj, como una maldición, como puede caer.
So as is the way with many of these things, there are layers of the truth.
Y hay muchas, ¿cómo se dice?
Capas.
Sí, siempre hay como muchas capas para la verdad.
Yeah, there are layers. So once, I forget exactly where, I think it's in the pastime of Uddhava. Uddhava, who was a friend of Krishna. This is after Krishna has left Vṛndāvana and he's now gone to Mathura.
Después de que Krishna deja Vṛndāvana, va a Mathura y hay una historia acerca de Uddhava.
And at one particular time, the friend of Krishna, known as Uddhava, Krishna sends Uddhava to console the residents of Vṛndāvana and to tell them that he'll be back soon.
Y entonces Krishna manda a Uddhava a que le diga que va a regresar pronto.
So when Uddhava returned, Lord Krishna asked Uddhava about his parents, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, about his friends, and the gopis and the gopas, and he asked about all his associates in Vṛndāvana. How are they?
Entonces cuando regresó le preguntó, ¿y cómo están todos sus asociados, ¿no? De la familia, las gopis, etc.
What Uddhava replied is absolutely heartbreaking.
Lo que Uddhava le respondió le rompió el corazón.
Because everyone's heart was broken that Krishna was no longer in Vṛndāvana.
Debido a que Krishna no estaba más en Vṛndāvana, pues todos tenían el corazón roto.
Many of his associates and family members could not any longer eat, and because they couldn't eat, their health was deteriorated. They become all skinny.
Debido a que los había dejado la separación, estaban ya como muy deteriorados, como de que no comían, pues su salud se había
At one point, Krishna asked about the Jamuna River, and he also asked about Govardhan, the hill of Govardhan, which was his favorite place to play as a cowherd boy.
Y entonces también en cierto punto le preguntó acerca del río Yamuna y la colina de Govardhan donde solía jugar.
And there in that description, there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is written thousands of years ago and is written in Sanskrit, it says, Uddhava says that the great hill of Govardhan, now remember the shadow was so big at sunset, the shadow would stretch 40 kilometers.
Que en el Srimad Bhagavatam se dice, y como lo mencionó hace rato, es de que la colina de Govardhan hacía una sombra como de 40 kilómetros.
So when the sun sets, the shadow of the bufa here stretches a kilometer or 2 or 3.
Como cuando está la puesta del sol, aquí en la bufa, la sombra pues nada más va a ser como de 1 o 2 kilómetros.
So how big does a mountain have to be for its shadow to stretch 30 to 40 kilometers?
¿Qué tan grande tuvo que hacer esta colina de Govardhan para que alcanzara 40 kilómetros de sombra?
Well, I once was trying to figure that out, and if it was that high, then the base of it must have been this big, and it wouldn't fit in Vṛndāvana.
Él está tratando como de figurar como ese tamaño.
So we cannot calculate in any way about Vṛndāvana, what is called Vṛndāvana, the spiritual world. It doesn't measure up. You see, like in this room, you can put 20 people, 30 people. After that, it'd be like, open the window, I can't breathe, there's no room, you know. Get off my foot, you know, you'd be sitting on the next guy. But in the spiritual world, if this was in the spiritual world, you could put the whole population of Mexico on this rug without anybody bumping into anybody, because the space is infinite.
Entonces, no es que se ponga uno a calcular siempre la cuestión de Vṛndāvana, como ahorita puso el ejemplo, que en Vṛndāvana, por ejemplo, aquí si mete a unos cientos de personas ya vamos a estar pidiendo apoyo porque ya no podemos respirar o estamos apretados, pero en esta sola alfombra puede entrar toda la población de México y estar muy cómodos.
So there Uddhava says, because of separation from you, the great mountain of Govardhan is reduced just to be a rubble, just a couple bumps of rocks.
Y entonces, debido a la separación, le dijo Uddhava a Krishna, la colina de Govardhan se ha reducido tanto que ya nada más son como unos peñascos.
So I was very happy to read that in the sense that, it's not because of some curse, but on some level of understanding, it's understood by people at that level that, it's because of the curse, the hill is shrinking.
Uh-huh. Y que a un cierto punto, pues la llamada maldición, se puede decir que pues no es por una maldición, pero si alcanzas el nivel de comprensión es porque la separación exactamente.
So about the layers of truth, when you examine the different religious traditions, religious books in the world, pretty much if you know what the truth is, you can find it everywhere.
Pero como en muchas religiones y de acuerdo a las capas de la verdad que siempre existen, si sabes la verdad puedes encontrarla en todos lados.
But you can't find all of it everywhere.
Pero más bien, no es que la puedas encontrar en todos lados.
For example, in the Bible it says God is great.
Como por ejemplo en la Biblia se dice, Dios es grandioso.
That is one of his attributes.
Es uno de sus atributos.
What about all the other attributes?
¿Qué hay de los otros atributos?
We come up with a short list, not a long list.
Vendríamos con una lista corta, ¿no?
Some people say God only has one name.
Unos pueden decir, Dios solo tiene un nombre.
And they say that is Allah or Jehovah or
Jehová.
Yahweh. They have these names.
Yahvé, Jehová, Alá.
So I used to say, you never get it? Allah, Krishna, and some of these all ending in the same. You don't make any connection? No. Your name of God is false. My name of God is true.
Sí, que puedes hacer como la similitud, ¿no? En los sonidos de Krishna, Alá, y que luego puede ponerse alguien de, no, el mío es el bueno y ya, se acabó.
So, I used to say, I have three names. My first name, my middle name, and my surname. I have three names. If God only has one, I'm greater than God. I have more names than He does. So how is it possible that God only has one name?
Que él,
If He is great.
yo tengo 3 nombres. Y si Dios solo tiene un nombre, pues entonces yo soy más grandioso que Dios.
Actually, God has thousands of names, millions of names,
De hecho, Dios
Billions of
tiene
names.
billones de nombres.
billions of trillions of names.
Billones y
whatever.
billones y trillones
Lots
de
of them.
muchos.
And some are prominent and known to the world, and the most of them are not.
Y hay unos que son dados y conocidos para el mundo y otros que no.
Okay, so wait, I got off the track there. How did I get to there? What was I talking about?
You're saying about the other religions.
Oh yeah, so you cannot find, like in the Vedas, you find 1,000 names of Vishnu. In the Bible, you maybe find one name of Vishnu. So you can find, if you know what the truth is, you can find it in many places. But where you get a complete understanding of the truth, that is very, very rare.
Que sí, en la escritura se puede encontrar mucho los nombres de Dios y sabes encontrar dónde están muchos nombres de Dios, pero la cuestión es que la pregunta es ¿dónde encuentras todo acerca de él?
Like a lot of times you hear the devotees say about the Vedas, the Vedas, the Vedas. If you go looking for the truth in the Vedas, you will require another 1,000 lifetimes.
Como muchos dicen, no, en los Vedas, muchos de los devotos dicen, no, que en los Vedas, pero si estás buscando solo en los Vedas, vas a requerir como otras miles de vidas para encontrar.
In fact, the Vedas are so difficult to find the truth, even once you get to the Upanishads, which are the like quintessential parts of the Vedas.
Que es muy difícil encontrar la verdad en los Vedas, especialmente en la quintesencia que es de los Upanishads.
The greatest majority of the Upanishads describe the absolute impersonal aspect of the
La
truth.
mayoría de los Upanishads describen el aspecto impersonal de lo que es la verdad.
Then there are some portions that describe the personal Paramatma, God in everyone's heart.
Y el otro es el Paramatma, lo describen también, que es la porción que está dentro de nosotros.
But the descriptions of the Supreme Person and the Supreme Abode are very, very rare, very
Pero
difficult.
muy difícil y raro de encontrar es ya la morada suprema.
Even when you study the Puranas, there's a Devi Purana that says Devi Supreme, there's a Shiva Purana that says Shiva Supreme, then there's a Vishnu Purana that says Vishnu Supreme, then there's the Bhagavat Purana, they're trying to figure out who the Bhagavat Purana says is supreme. That's the Srimad Bhagavatam. If we were just left to our own devices, here, learn the Sanskrit language, study and find the truth, it would take you many, many, many lifetimes.
Como en los Puranas hay para Devi Puranas, hay Shiva, Vishnu, y todos dicen que él es el supremo. Entonces, si estamos buscando mucho en los Puranas y eso, pues va a tomar muchísimo tiempo.
Yes. Even if you're left just to study the Bhagavad Gita by itself, you alone study the Bhagavad Gita, you alone study the Bhagavat Purana, you will not arrive at the right conclusion.
Incluso si tú por ti mismo estás estudiando el Bhagavad Gita, el Bhagavad Purana, vas a llegar a una conclusión errónea.
You may get part of it right, but you won't get it all right.
Vas a conseguir o vas a aproximarte a algo correcto, pero a la mayoría no.
Even the mantras we chant.
Incluso los mantras que cantamos.
Nowadays, things like yoga, things like bhakti, things like kirtan, bhajan, these things have become very, very popular.
Como ahora en estos días ya se volvió muy popular el bhakti, cuestión de yoga, kirtan, bhajan.
There's some very popular bhajan singers. One of them's name is Krishna Das.
Como hay uno muy famoso que se llama Krishna Das.
Basically, I know some of Krishna Das's friends. Krishna Das is non-vegetarian, chain smoker, and a womanizer.
Este Krishna Das es pues come carne, fumador y aparte mujeriego.
But he's been on stage with such famous groups or famous people as Bruce Springsteen or Willie Nelson or U2 or something like very popular.
Se ha vuelto muy popular que hasta con YouTube, con varios artistas, ya está.
So in the popular, setup, you have many people chanting mantras and so many things. Even the Krishna mantra, Maha mantra. Very
Incluso
popular.
ya es tan popular que hay un buen de gente que se reúne y empiezan a cantar ese Mahamantra.
However, what the Vedas say and what is pointed out by Shankaracharya, who in modern times was here some 2,000 plus years ago, it is pointed out by Shankaracharya and other places that whatever mantra you chant, if you did not receive that, first you receive it, and you have to receive it in the paramparā, what they call actual, true, bona fide paramparā, a lineage that goes back to the divine source. If you don't get that, if you just got that mantra out of a book and start reading it and such, it doesn't have the potency.
Como Shankaracharya hace un poquito más de 2000 años apuntó muy claramente que cuando recibes un mantra tiene que ser a través de un paramparā genuino.
In fact, it may have the opposite effect from what you actually think you're looking for.
De hecho, si estás cantando un mantra y no lo has recibido así como dice apropiadamente, lo que está teniendo es un efecto opuesto.
Mainly, it may increase your material desires instead of decrease them.
Y de hecho va a empezar a incrementar los deseos materiales.
It may increase things like lust rather than decrease them.
De hecho puede incrementar, por ejemplo, la lujuria en lugar de decrementarla.
Particularly the false ego.
Particularmente el ego falso.
The opposite, very opposite of what you think you're after, spiritual life. The opposite thing may happen to you.
Lo que puedes pensar de lo que es el efecto espiritual puede pasar todo lo contrario.
But nowadays it's very rare to find people who are actually interested to know the real systems of the things that are, just made basically popular.
Que ahorita es muy raro también encontrar a gente que en verdad quiera saber cómo funciona el sistema básico de esto.
Let me give you an example. In California, Buddhism, very popular.
California,
And has been for the last 20 years. Very popular.
desde hace 20 años el budismo se ha vuelto en California muy popular.
And there are many places, and some of them are big, some of them are small. There are retreats, resorts. Some are free, and most of them people pay for. They pay for the weekend experience and do the Buddhist thing. And there are different types of Buddhism also. Buddhism isn't just one thing. There's many different branches of Buddhism.
De hecho, no es que solamente budismo significa algo, sino hay muchas ramas del budismo. Y dentro de esos grupos hay pequeños, hay grandes, hay de todo. Y se vuelve popular también.
And if you talk to somebody that's been there or go on the blogs, you'll say, I went this week, that was really good, it was really spiritual. And you'll see this word, really spiritual, or spiritual will pop up. Right?
Y cuando platicas o ves los blogs de algunas personas de esas, ves que dicen, esto estuvo bien espiritual.
But if you ask the Dalai Lama what is spiritual about Buddhism, he'll tell you nothing. We don't believe in Atma, the spirit. There is nothing. There is no spirit. There is only nothing.
Pero si le preguntas al Dalai Lama qué tiene de espiritual el budismo, él va a contestar nada, porque ellos no creen en nada, simplemente no creen en el espíritu, en el Atma.
Mostly people would describe the soul as spiritual, Atma is spiritual, the demigods are spiritual, God is spiritual. But in Buddhism there is no God. There is no God. There are no demigods. They are just illusions. There is no Atma. In fact, one of the famous Buddhist meditation is anatma. I am not conscious. This is false. Anatma. I am not spiritual.
Como el budismo en sí, podemos escuchar a la mayoría de las personas que dice que, sí, los semidioses son espirituales, el alma, el espíritu, todo es espiritual. Pero se le pregunta a los budistas y los budistas dirán que no, en verdad, los semidioses, todo eso es ilusorio. Ellos de hecho cantan un mantra que es no soy conciencia.
So it's really only when someone goes deep into something that you find out what it is. And when someone becomes a real Buddhist monk, then they get those mantras, anatma and all these other things, and they clearly understand from listening to the senior monks that all this spiritual talk is simply false. It's an illusion. That is actually Buddhism.
Pero de hecho, si alguien es serio en el budismo, se va a adentrar tanto que va a llegar a la conclusión donde llega a esos mantras, que en verdad todo es ilusión.
But the bulk of the
falso.
people still feel it's something spiritual.
Pero la mayoría de nosotros sentimos, wow, esta experiencia fue muy espiritual.
So Hinduism is very, very similar. What they call Hinduism. I describe Hinduism as failed Vaishnavism.
Que el hinduismo es algo muy similar y que él podría describir al hinduismo como un Vaiṣṇavismo fallido.
Failed self-realization, failed yoga.
Fallo
All
de
that stuff
realización.
fails, it's called Hinduism.
Todo lo que tiene que ver así como con esas fallas de la autorrealización, etcétera, es hinduismo.
Now the different parts of so-called Hinduism, which people say Vaishnavism is part of Hinduism, Shaivism, Shaktiism, all these things, they exist, and they exist in the Vedas and in the different descriptions of the pursuit of truth and self-realization. It's not just whoop, one big jump. Like even within Bhakti, it's not just one big jump to the love of God one day. You wake up and you have prema. It's not like that.
Como todos dicen, es que el Vaiṣṇavismo, esto y aquello está dentro del hinduismo. Y sí, sí es que está ahí, pero no es de que tomas algo y ya de repente al otro día te despiertas y ya tienes amor por Dios.
But nowhere in the whole of the Vedas, Puranas, or anything, anywhere, really, is Hinduism mentioned. There is no such thing as Hinduism, which is an English word. There is no such word as Hindu in the Vedas and Puranas.
De hecho, en los Vedas, en nada de los Puranas se menciona ni siquiera una palabra del hinduismo.
It is a Persian word,
Es una palabra persa, de hecho,
which refers to the people who live east of the Indus River.
Esa se refiere a las personas que vivían del otro lado del este del río
Indus.
Indus. Ajá.
So what they were trying to say is the Indus, the people who live, just like the Americanos, the Mexicanos, so the Indus, the people who live on the other side of that river.
Y lo que trataban de decir es como nosotros aquí, ¿no? Los mexicanos, los americanos, los hindús, los hindús que viven del otro lado.
And so, but they don't speak that, so they say, hey, the Hindus. Instead of Indus, or the Indus, or the Sindhu, they say Hindu. So it's an evolved word, but it's Persian.
Eran persas los que decían esto y no podían pronunciar bien y decían hindus.
Just like the word India itself. It's not Sanskrit, it's not Hindi,
Es como la misma palabra India, no es ni hindi ni sánscrito,
it's English.
es inglés,
It's an English word.
la palabra en inglés.
It comes from the Greek word for India called indica.
Y de hecho proviene de una palabra griega que se refiere a índica.
And in the time of the rise and power of the British Empire, they changed everything. They changed histories, they changed everybody's name all over wherever they went in the world, and indica became India.
Y ya cuando llegó todo el poderío británico y cambiaron todo, hicieron aquello y esto, y le cambiaron el nombre de Índica por India.
So what is the name of India?
Entonces, ¿qué es el nombre de India?
Well, it's mentioned in the Indian constitution, it's mentioned throughout many Vedic Puranic literatures, is Bharat Varsa, Bharat.
Que en muchos Puranas y en los Vedas se menciona ya a India como el Bharat.
It's named after the son of Rishabdev, who was a king. His name was Bharat.
Después del hijo de algún rey, se le nombró Bharat.
Many thousands of years ago.
Muchísimos miles de años atrás.
But it had a name even before that.
Pero tenía un nombre incluso
Now we're
antes de
talking
eso.
hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of years ago. What was it called?
Ilavata.
Vṛndāvana. And I think it had a name even before that.
Y estamos hablando de cientos de miles, igual y millones de años atrás, se le llamaba Ilábrata.
So the world and civilizations in India and everywhere else has been around a lot longer than anthropologists have understood, or archaeologists have understood, or cosmic scientists have understood. The world has been here for millions of years, and people have been here.
Entonces las civilizaciones han estado mucho más atrás de lo que piensa o hace el estudio científico, antropológico, etc. Y ha sido habitado este planeta por humanos.
So we live in a world of change, and many things have changed. Things get added to, some things get lost. They say most of the Vedas are lost. Of the thousands of books that we have, The millions of books are lost. They don't exist anymore.
Que ha habido muchos cambios en esta tierra y refiriéndose a los libros, es que de cientos o miles de libros que se tienen, ya millones están perdidos.
For example, when we were researching a philosophical argument with another sampradaya called the Madhva Sampradaya in India, we discovered that 200 books that Madhvacharya, very famous acharya from, 1,300 years ago? No, 700 years ago. 700 years ago, very famous acharya. Vaishnavacharya, he quotes 200 books that don't exist anymore. He quotes a book and you go in the library, you go looking for those books, they don't exist anymore.
Cuando estaban buscando unos libros para un debate que tenían con una diferente sampradaya, estaban buscando en la línea de Madhva Sampradaya, que existió aquí hace como 700 años, y buscaron encontraron que él había hecho 200 libros, pero esos 200 libros ya no existen más.
So all the Vedas are eternal, but they're not always manifest. They're appearing and disappearing all the time, just like clouds. You look out the window, you go, wow, look at that cloud. You come inside to tell somebody, where did the cloud go? It's gone. It comes and it goes.
Yeah. Entonces se refiere a que los Vedas son eternos, pero algunas veces se manifiestan y algunas veces desaparecen. Por ejemplo, como las nubes. Ves una nube, wow, qué hermosa nube. Le llamas a alguien para que venga y viene y ya no está. Se están moviendo y desapareciendo.
Okay, so today, this evening, now we're doing this one day early. Tomorrow is actually the day called Govardhana Pūjā, but because we're preparing to travel and stuff, we just have today.
Entonces, sí, mañana es el día de Govardhana Pūjā, pero se decidió hacer antes porque estamos en toda esa onda de que vamos a viajar.
So, today, what is it, morning now? In India is woohoo right now. Everyone's lighting fires everywhere. It looks like the whole place is on fire. Every house is lighting lamps, every temple, thousands of lamps. In some temples, 100,000 lamps are lit today. 100,000. And everybody's setting off firecrackers and missiles exploding into the air. And the ICU ward is overcrowded with people getting their fingers blown off and all kinds of stuff. Really.
Como ahorita en India, en la noche allá empiezan a prender muchas lámparas, incluso en algunos templos cientos de miles de velitas, empiezan a tronar cohetes, unos se vuelan los dedos, hay muchas cosas que pasan.
So this is called Diwali.
Esto se le llama Diwali.
And Diwali is many things to many people. Even up until a few years ago, the Muslims of India used to celebrate Diwali.
El Diwali es para mucha gente, significa mucho para muchos en India, incluso para los musulmanes también celebran Diwali.
It's mainly celebrated by lighting lamps, lights, now modern also decorative lights and all kind of flashing lights are there and everything like that, and by giving gifts of sweets.
Y ahora se celebra de una forma de que se prenden muchas lámparas, incluso ya ahorita hasta cosas modernas, parpadeando y toda la onda, y también se dan dulces.
So this is a day when people respect their parents also.
Es el día que también se respeta a los padres.
It's a special day between brothers and sisters. The brother visits the house of his sister who's married now. They're special. It's a big time of ceremony.
Mucha ceremonia y hay mucho intercambio en que el hermano visita al otro hermano en su casa y así.
Most of today's celebrations are social.
Muchas de las celebraciones ahorita son sociales.
And some of them go back thousands of years. For
y
sure.
eso va seguramente a miles de años atrás.
So the Vaiṣṇavas also observed this festival in those same ways as regards their families and things, but then there's also significance, special significance.
También los Vaiṣṇavas lo celebran, como ya lo mencionó, pero también tiene un significado especial.
So this is also the day, many things happen today, tonight, tomorrow, that are connected to Vaishnavism. And in Krishna-līlā, this is the day that Mother Yasoda tied up Krishna, because she couldn't control him, right? Ever experienced that? You can't control the little kids, so you tie him up. So she tied him up to a big stone.
Entonces aquí es cuando la mamá Yasoda amarra a Krishna porque no lo podía controlar a una piedrota.
But every time she tied the knot, couldn't get the two ends of the rope to come together, so she would call for her friends, bring more rope, and she would add another 4 or 5 meters, and it was still too short. And pretty soon, they had all the rope in the village tied together, but when they pulled it around the rope, to pull it around Krishna's stomach, it wouldn't touch. Why is that?
Entonces, estaba tratando de amarrarlo porque cuando yo iba a hacer el nudo pues no cerraba. Y se dieron cuenta que al final sacaron todo el lazo de todo el pueblo. Llegó el momento que igual no cerraba. ¿A qué se debe esto? ¿Por qué pasó esto?
The rope, okay, the rope is something they're pulling from this world, and they're trying to wrap it around the infinite. Krishna's little child's body is itself infinite.
¿Por qué no se podía amarrar? Pues porque es un pequeñito, pero estaban tratando de amarrar su panza, pero entonces es como tratar de amarrar al infinito.
One time the report came that, your son, Krishna, they told me your son is eating mud.
Y una vez
He's eating dirt.
le llegó la queja de, tu hijo tiene lodo en la boca.
That's a childhood pastime, isn't it?
Es un pasatiempo de infancia.
At a certain age, whatever they can get their hands on, there's one place to put it, in their mouth.
Cuando estás chiquito,
pulling stuff out of their mouth.
Lo que te encuentres te lo echas a la boca.
So Mother Yasoda looked into Krishna's mouth, and there was the whole universe.
Entonces la madre Yashoda ve en la boca y ve que está todo el universo.
The sun, the moon, the demigods, all the planets, the armies, everything that exists was in Krishna's mouth.
Todo estaba ahí, en planetas, soles, hasta ejércitos, todo lo en la boca de Krishna.
For a split second, she understood. Oh my God, my God, my God, my God. This is God. This is yeah. You know? And this was spoiling everything. So Krishna just illusioned his mother.
Por un chispazo, madre Yashoda dijo, oh Dios mío. Y tuvo ese chispazo, pero inmediatamente ¡pum!, fue cubierta para que no se diera cuenta otra vez.
And then she just don't you do that again.
Entonces nada más agarró y dijo, no vuelvas a hacer eso.
That illusion, that is called Yogamaya.
Esa ilusión se le llama Yogamaya.
People say, I want to see God, but that, you don't either. It'll burn your eyes right out of your head.
Incluso muchos dicen,
in a good way.
yo quisiera ver a Dios. Y es mejor quema tus ojos.
Now, the Christians used to say to us all the time, no one has seen God, and then they would add, no one has lived who has seen God. Right? So I had two comments. One was, really, he's that ugly?
Nadie quisiera ver a Dios, hasta los cristianos dicen, pero nos lleva dos respuestas, que está muy feo.
But what that means is, when you see God, your time is over in this world. You have no more to live in this world of suffering. How much suffering is out there? I almost poked myself in the eye with my toothbrush this morning. Even you go to brush your teeth, there's suffering. You go out here, the car crashes, and the electric bill comes. There's suffering everywhere. All we're doing is dodging suffering. That's life. How are you today? I'm good. Just dodging suffering.
Sí, cuando llega el momento de encontrarse con Dios es más bien cuando ya no tengas que ver nada con este mundo, porque este mundo es miserable y uno siempre está sufriendo. Incluso en la mañana estaba lavando los dientes y se picó el ojo sufriendo. Llega la cuenta de pagar la luz, la renta y todo es sufrimiento. Nada más lo único que tratas es como ajustarte y decir que estás bien.
One man told me, you can't see God because he's so big. You can't get far enough away from him to actually see him.
Que incluso una vez un hombre dijo, no puedes ver a Dios porque es tan grande, porque no hay espacio en tu visión para poder verlo. Te tienes que hacer para atrás y no hay espacio.
So in the 1960s, 1970s, there was a popular saying, God is dead.
Que había un dicho que en los 70, 60 Dios ha muerto.
So Prabhupada used to say, God is not dead, I have seen him.
Y Prabhupada solía decir, Dios no ha muerto, yo suelo verlo.
Yeah. So that led to some other stories. We'll talk about that another time. So so this is the day that Mother Yasoda tied up Krishna. This is called Dāmodara-līlā.
Esto se le llama el Dāmodara-līlā cuando está tratando de amarrarlo a Krishna.
This is also the day in the time of Lord Rama, in the time of Ram-līlā, Ramachandra, Ramayana. That's way earlier than Mahabharata. It's way earlier than that. This is after all the years of trials and tribulations and fighting with the demon king Ravana. And they say now that Sri Lanka was where Ravana lived, and all these kind of things were over. And Lord Rama returned to the capital city with his wife Sita, with his brother Lakshman. And he returned in the evening, and everybody in Ayodhyā, that's called the capital city, Ayodhyā, they lit lamps to welcome Lord Ramachandra back to the kingdom.
Y también en este día se celebra con el pasatiempo del Ramayana, que es mucho más atrás de Mahabharata. El señor Rama regresa con Lakshman y Sita y todos los reciben con fuego, con lámparas.
Now here is another reason of today, which is pretty much forgotten, and I must admit I only found out about it very recently, like 30 minutes ago, half hour ago. This is Kaṭha Upaniṣad. This is with a commentary by Sripad Giri Maharaj. And how is it? Subtitled Kaṭha Upaniṣad, subtitled Enlightenment Through Death.
Sí, y aquí está otra cosa que se le estaba olvidando y es Sri Kaṭha Upaniṣad, un comentario de Sripad Giri Maharaj, y se le llama iluminación a través de la muerte.
So here on the cover, this painting is by Gorgopal's mother.
Y aquí la cubierta, la portada es pintada por la madre de Gorgopal, Lalita.
That's Chaitya Guru there.
Y el que está posando ahí como el
You
que
know
está
Chaitya
señalando.
Guru? He's one of the boys in our ashram. That's him. Anyway, that's supposed to be Yamarāja.
Se supone que es Yamaraj, es Chaitya Guru, uno de los devotos del ashram.
And in the Kaṭha Upaniṣad, what's the boy's name?
Naciketa.
Naciketa. Naciketa, and the whole story's in here. You have to read this. You'll love this story. You know, Naciketa, he has to go to Yamarāja, and he meets the Lord of Death.
Entonces, Naciketa es el niño y tiene que se encuentra con Yamaraj.
Now, why is that? In many traditions around the world, the farther back you go, there's a Lord of Death.
Y esto nos lleva a que en muchas tradiciones, siempre cuando vayas para atrás en las civilizaciones, hay un señor de la muerte.
The Greeks,
Los
the
griegos,
Egyptians,
egipcios.
Incas, the Aztecs, everybody's got a Lord of Death, everybody's got Lord of the Sun, Lord of the Moon, rains, Talak, you know, here in Mexico, the Aztec deity Talak looks a lot like Jagannath.
De hecho, luce como Jagannath, así como está en el Museo de Antropología. Y bueno, y se refiere que todos tenemos que el Señor del Sol, Señor de la Muerte, etc.
So in the Vedic culture, that Lord of Death is called Yamarāja.
Y en la cultura védica se le llama Yamaraj.
It means Lord of Death, King of Death.
Se refiere es el Rey de la Muerte.
So there's a dialogue between this young boy and Yamarāja, which leads to enlightenment.
Y es un diálogo que es entre este chamaco y el Señor de la Muerte que lo lleva a la iluminación.
So many traditions say that happened on this day also.
Y muchas tradiciones dicen que en este día también pasó eso.
All right. So now, 5,000 years ago on this day, the residents of Vṛndāvana, means Nanda Maharaj and the elders, the elder men, they had arranged for a sacrifice.
Y hace más de 5,000 años, los habitantes de Vṛndāvana y Nanda Maharaj y todos ellos estaban haciendo un arreglo para tener un sacrificio.
This was known as an Indra Yajna.
Esto iba a ser un sacrificio hacia Indra.
In the previous time, this 5,000 years ago when Krishna appeared is at the end of Dwapara Yuga. It's not the beginning of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga hasn't started yet. It's the end of Dwapara Yuga.
Este momento que se está hablando no es el principio de Kali Yuga, es el final de Dwapara Yuga.
And at that time, the worship of Indra was very, very strong. Indra is the king of the demigods. You have moon, sun, all the, but Indra is your man. He's the head one.
En ese tiempo, al final de Dwapara Yuga, estaba muy fuerte la adoración a Indra. E Indra es como el mero de todos los semidioses.
And his specific department is the rain.
Y su departamento en específico es la lluvia.
But besides his specifics, he has his overreaching powers also.
Pero aparte de sus tareas específicas, pues también tenía otras cosas que hacer, hacía además.
Krishna, who was quite young at the time, I think 6 or 7 years old, he came to where all the arrangements were being made for a Yajna means a fire yajna, and all the things will be offered, the fruits and vegetables and grains and milk products and yogurt and cheese and all these things in a great celebration, are being offered to Lord Indra.
Entonces Krishna tenía como 6 o 7 años y llega el momento donde se está preparando todos los granos, leche, mantequilla, etcétera, toda la preparación para la ofrenda hacia Indra.
So Lord Krishna came and asked his father, what's this all about?
Y entonces Krishna llega y dice a su papá, pues, ¿de qué se trata todo esto?
So basically the conversation started out like, well, it's complicated, you're just a little boy, you really wouldn't understand.
Le dije, tan chiquito, no va a entender en verdad qué está pasando.
But Krishna said, no, try me, And so Nanda Maharaj starts explaining the importance of yajna, the importance of Indra, and the dependence between Indra and the other demigods, and Indra and humanity, and the rains, and the grass, and the cows. And he just gives him the whole ontological, this is the way it works, son.
Entonces le dice, bueno, ya le empieza a explicar y le explica la relación que hay para el sacrificio a Indra, la relación entre las vacas, el pasto, todo ontológicamente bien descrito.
And then Krishna said, well, if you don't mind, the way I'm looking at it is Govardhan Hills gives us everything we need. Who the hell is Indra?
Entonces,
basically, that's what he said.
Entonces Krishna dice, bueno, si no les importa, pues si están tratando de hacer todo este arreglo y yo he visto que Govardhan pues nos provee de todo lo que tenemos.
So, believe me, when Krishna wants to convince you of something, you don't stand a chance. If he gives you the option, well, that's up to you. But if he really wants to convince you of something, you are convinced. It's the end of the story.
Créanme, cuando Krishna quiere convencerte de algo, quedas convencido. Si te da el chance para dudarlo, también te lo da.
So Krishna convinced them that I think this is a waste. Indra is helpless. He can't really do anything. Govardhan Hill is what provides everything we need.
De hecho, antes había mencionado, ¿quién es ese Indra? Y ahorita dice Guru Maharaj que, bueno, pues como ya dije, pues Indra es inútil en esto porque pues, la colina de Govardhan está proveyendo todo.
And so Krishna suggested, let us offer all these things, cooked and uncooked, everything prepared. Let us offer to Govardhan.
Y entonces Krishna dice, por favor, permitámonos ofrecer todo esto cocinado o no cocinado a la colina de Govardhan.
So convinced by this charming boy, his words so sweet and so powerful that no one can resist, they offered everything to Govardhan Hill.
Entonces, convencidos por este muchachito encantador y de dulces palabras, todo el mundo lo empezó a hacer.
Now, Govardhan Hill is a hill. It's a rock. It's a lot of rocks, a lot of big rocks. I mean, you go there and, yeah, they're right there. You can touch them. They're big. You can walk around it. You can see it. It's big. Even today, it's quite a big little hill.
Que si vemos a la colina de Govardhan, son piedras, son rocotas grandotas.
So, the paraphernalia of Krishna in the spiritual world, such things as the land, the trees, the river, the mountains and the hills and these things, that's called Shantaras Bhaktas.
Que toda la parafernalia de Krishna en el mundo espiritual, como es los árboles, el pasto, las piedras, etc., todo eso se le llama Santarash Bhaktas.
They are living beings.
Son entidades vivientes.
Some of the living beings have human-like forms. Some have animal-like forms. Peacocks, cows, parrots, deers, all types of things. Even cats and dogs. But they are completely spiritual.
E incluso hay entidades vivientes, entidades humanas, animales, de esto y aquello, gatos, perros, pero también todas esas entidades que mencionó, la parafernalia, el pasto, los árboles, son entidades vivientes pero espirituales.
So at the time of making the offering to Govardhan Hill, to this hill, Krishna became that hill.
Entonces al momento que estaban haciendo la ofrenda a la colina, Krishna se vuelve esa montaña.
And his eyes manifest very big in the hill, and his face was visible in the hill, and then his arms came out from the hill, and he just started eating everything what had been offered, eating all the offerings.
En el momento que entra en esa montaña que se convirtió, sus ojos empiezan a expandir y se hacen bien grandotes viendo todo y salen brazos y todo lo que ha sido ofrecido se lo empieza a echar.
But when Krishna eats something, it remains there also.
Pero cuando Krishna come algo, le recuerda.
And that is called Krishna Prasad.
Le recuerda que es Krishna Prasad.
Like here in the ashram.
Cuando come algo, aún
Se
se
permanece.
queda.
Ah, sí, cuando Krishna come algo se mantiene ahí. Ajá. Que es la Krishna Prasad.
And so after all, this was all going on, and then after the offering, all the devotees of the village and all the villages around, they're all taking Krishna Prasadam, and they're all very, very happy. And then Indra showed up.
Entonces, cuando está pasando todo esto que estamos mencionando, todos los devotos igual empiezan a tomar prasada y de repente que aparece Indra.
It is said that in ancient times, and it's been said by more than one culture also, outside of India, that in ancient times, beings from other planets used to visit Earth. Now they call them aliens.
Y se dice que en muchas culturas antiguas que entidades de otros planetas nos visitaban.
It's written and mentioned in numerous ancient cultures have their legends of the divine beings coming and giving them something or doing something or interacting or even having children with earthly women and all this kind of stuff. This is even in the Bible. You know, it's everywhere.
Incluso en la Biblia, en muchas escrituras antiguas, se dice que venían entidades divinas y que incluso procreaban con entidades humanas y hacían esto y aquello.
So, if a sacrifice was prepared in such a way and so good and everything was just right, then the devas, what the Vedas call the devas, the demigods, like Indra and others, they would come to those prepared sacrifices.
Entonces cuando se les preparaban todos estos sacrificios, estas ofrendas, todas esas entidades que ahorita ya se les llama extraterrestres, obviamente descendían, bajaban.
Indra rides an elephant.
Indra
Airavata? No.
Airavata, yeah.
Indra cabalga un elefante.
So Indra showed up with his entourage only to be embarrassed and then angered.
Y se apareció Indra con su parafernalia, pero solo para quedar avergonzado y ponerse bien enojado.
And he saw that all these foolish villagers have listened to this kid over here, and they've spoiled the whole yajna, and they've insulted me, and they have to be taught a lesson.
Entonces dijo, todos estos tontos pueblerinos están escuchando y haciéndole caso a este niño y estos me tienen que escuchar.
So Indra decided to rain down what are his Simantaka clouds, they're called, the clouds of devastation. When the universe wraps itself up at different stages, the earth is destroyed many times before the universe is destroyed. It's destroyed and recreated and destroyed and recreated like hundreds of times in the course of a full manifested universe. And when this happens, the rains of devastation take part, and these are provided by Indra and his Shamantaka, right?
Samavartaka.
Samavartaka cloud. It's like the mother of all bad storms, right? Comes and is part of it. So he sends his rain clouds, and his weapon is the thunderbolt, the lightning. He sends unbelievable rains and thunder and lightning to punish the people of Govardhan Hill.
Entonces mandó a llamar a sus nubes que son devastadoras, y esas nubes devastadoras son las que se utilizan también para destruir algunas veces y recrear lo que es el universo. Las mandó a llamar, y también él tenía su rayo.
Now at that time, see, Govardhan Hill was a hill way out there with forest all around, but that's not where Krishna lived. He lived at a place called Nandagram, and Radharani's family lived at a place called Barsana, and there are other villages all around that area. And people had gathered for this great sacrifice.
Entonces Krishna vivía en Nandagram, Radharani en Barsana, y mucha gente de alrededor llegó hasta ese gran sacrificio.
Many of those ancient villages are still there today.
Muchos de estos aldeanos están ahí todavía. Muchos
Even
aldeanos
one
están
of
ahí.
the places where Krishna used to slide with his friends. It's not at Govardhan Hill. It's in a place called Kamban. There's another big hill, and he and his friends would slide down these slippery rocks for long. That place where they slid is still there. It's worn deep into the rocks. And devotees go there and get on it and slide down. The very same place
Y hay,
where Krishna played with his friends.
hay un lugar donde utilizaba de resbaladilla Krishna con sus amigos y todavía está ahí.
So the rains of Indra created what they call tumultuous flooding.
Entonces, esta lluvia y todo empezó a causar una tumultuosa
It was
inundación.
as if the ocean had come.
Es como si
Everything was distressed by the floods.
todo estaba siendo destruido por la inundación, es como si el océano se hubiera puesto ahí.
So at that time, Krishna, well, his devotees are praying to Krishna, oh God, please save us, etc., etc. So he said, okay. So at that point, he stuck his little finger of his left hand under the hill and raised that 7-kilometer long gigantic mountain on his little hand, like this.
Entonces todos estaban orando a Dios, ay Krishna, por favor, échanos la mano. Y levantó la colina de 14 kilómetros de larga solo con este dedito.
And then Krishna's friends, cowboys, they said, well, good, we'll give you some help. So they stuck their sticks up there. We got you.
Entonces sus amigos, pues hay que echarle la mano y que agarran palos y la ponen ahí entre la tierra y la colina de Govardhan.
So Prabhupada used to say, there are many people who claim to be God. Tell them to come and lift Govardhan Hill.
Y que Prabhupada solía decir, muchos claman llamarse Dios, ¿no? Entonces diles que vayan y que recojan la colina de Govardhan con un dedito.
Nowadays we struggle to pick up one stone, what to speak of lift a mountain.
Si siempre estamos como sufriendo con recoger una piedrilla, una roca, ¿qué decir de una montaña?
So seeing what had taken, but now this took place not just in an hour. This transpired through the night and the next day and all these things. And I believe it's tomorrow, that Krishna actually lifts the hill.
Todo tomó como alrededor de casi un día, toda la noche, para que Krishna también levantara esa
How many
colina.
days did he say?
7 days.
7 days. And during the 7 days, no one felt hunger or thirst or tired. Everyone was just amazed with the beauty of Krishna.
Y en ese momento que fueron 7 días los que estuvo sosteniendo la colina, no pasó nadie de los que estaban ahí, ni hambre, ni sedientos, ni cansados, todos estaban sorprendidos de la belleza de Krishna.
At the end, Indra realized his wrong. And then he offers prayers to Krishna. Oh, you have to excuse me, because Indra is a devotee of Vishnu.
Y entonces Indra se dio cuenta de que algo estaba mal, algo estaba equivocado. Entonces tuvo que ofrecer disculpas a Krishna.
But no one had seen the avatar of Krishna in the universe for a long, long, long time. And thus even the demigods had forgotten what is the most divine form of the Supreme Lord.
Pero nadie había visto la forma de Krishna como avatar divina. Entonces habían olvidado hasta cómo era la forma divina de Krishna en sí.
So Lord Krishna presented this thing. Well, see, I didn't recognize you. You haven't been here in so long, so please excuse me for trying to kill you and all your friends. And cows.
Entonces trató de disculparse y de decirle todo así, ¿no?
And so then Lord Indra's elephant bathed Lord Krishna with milk.
Entonces el elefante del señor Indra bañó, sí, ¿verdad? Bañó al señor Krishna con leche.
Where did he get the milk?
¿De dónde sacó la leche?
It's a very exceptional elephant.
Es un elefante muy excepcional.
And that milk accumulated in a lake, which over time then turned to water.
Que esa leche se acumuló en un lago y pasando el tiempo se convirtió en agua.
That's called Govindakund.
Y ese es el Govinda Kunda.
And that is the time where then Krishna gets the name in pastime, eternity, drama, he gets the name Govinda.
Y ese es el tiempo exacto, el momento donde en el pasatiempo, en el drama que está sucediendo, se le pone el nombre de Govinda Kunda.
All right, so then this day, tonight is celebrated with the lights and giving of gifts and things like that. And tomorrow is celebrated the worship of Govardhan by offering, I think in some temples over 1,000 items are offered.
Como en esta noche se ofrecen lo que decía todas las lámparas, las veladoras. Mañana es cuando se le ofrece la colina de Govardhan, pero en algunos templos le ofrecen tanto que son hasta miles de preparaciones.
In Vṛndāvana, in our temple in Vṛndāvana, where Radha Damodara are, where Prabhupada's rooms are, the altar is about as long as this almost as long as this whole room, from this wall to where the books are. And the hall, there's no space anywhere. It's just filled with sweets.
Y en el templo de Radha Damodar, allá en donde están los cuartos de Śrīla Prabhupada, como donde están los libros hasta esa pared, está el templo, el altar, y está todo lleno que ni hay espacio de puros dulces.
And in the middle is a pile of rice about that big, just about that big, about a meter high, white rice.
Y se pone una de ese tamaño como de 1 metro de alto, una montañita, una colinita de Govardhan de puro arroz blanco.
And on it is decorated with cows and trees and all kinds of
Decorado
things,
con
like a big Govardhan.
arbolitos, como si fuera una Govardhan, ¿no? Con vaquitas, etc.
And there in that temple is, don't have the picture up yet, but there is a picture coming. There is a picture of a stone from Govardhan Hill.
Y hay una foto de una piedra de la colina de Govardhan.
And it is, in that temple, it's this big, it's this long, it's about this wide, and in it is Krishna's footprint, his right foot. Right foot? Is it his right foot? Look at the picture. Show them, you can show the picture. It's his footprint, and the footprint of a cow, and the mark of his flute, and the stick that he carries as a boy to herd the cows. It's all pressed into this stone.
Ahí en el templo de Radha Damodar hay una piedra grande, de este tamaño, donde está impreso la huella derecha de Krishna, una huella de vaca, la de su flauta y la del palo para arrear a las vacas.
So on this, I'll pass this around, you can look at it. On this side, you can clearly see a right footprint. And on this side right here, that's the cow's footprint. And this stone from the hill of Govardhan was given to Sanatana Goswami when he was just around 100 years old.
Y esta es la que solía circunvalar Sanatana Goswami cuando ya estaba bien viejito.
Sanatana Goswami used to circumambulate Govardhan Hill every day.
Él solía circunvalar toda la colina de Govardhan diario.
Still many sadhus and yogis, they do that every day. Not just one day a year, every day they do it.
Todos los días muchos sadhus en India lo hacen.
Some people go around Govardhan Hill by dandabats, means they lay flat on the ground. And then they put a stone at their hand. They do that 108 times, and then they advance one length.
Como en India todavía hay unos que hacen sus reverencias completas, con la mano ponen la piedra, hacen 108 veces eso en el mismo lugar, y después de esas 108 veces, otra vez hacia adelante, una más y 108 veces.
While they're there, they may say 10 or 20 prayers, and then they, after they do that 108 times, they advance. They live on the side of the road as they go. It takes over 1 year to do that.
Les toma alrededor de 1 año para hacer todo eso.
You see others just going one length at a time, even ladies, older ladies in their 60s, 70s, 80 years old. People out there today, the people are running by, the young kids are running, they run the whole length of it. Hundreds of young people run, old people are going like this. People come along in wheelchairs. I even was there one year when the army came with a gigantic helicopter, and I looked up and this helicopter was going at an angle like this, and there were all these generals inside having darshan go down the hill, flying down.
Incluso hay viejitas de 60, 70 años que se hacen solamente una vez, siguiente punto y otra vez lo hacen así. Que incluso una vez estaba Guru Maharaj ahí, pasó un helicóptero y cuando vio a todos los generales estaban tomando el darshan y haciendo reverencias.
So when Sanatana Goswami was too old
Cuando Sanatana Goswami estaba ya muy
to
viejo
walk,
para caminar,
then Krishna appeared to him, gave him this stone that you're seeing the picture of, and pushed his foot into it. Now, if you measure that, his foot's about this big. It's like, oh, man, that's a big guy, you know. But when he put his foot on it, the stone melted. And it appears bigger than it actually is.
Entonces, como ya estaba viejo Sanatana Goswami, se le aparece Krishna y le entrega esto, pero esta piedra y pone su pie ahí. Y entonces cuando puso la piedra ahí se empezó como a derretir.
In Vṛndāvana, there are many ancient things from 5,000 years ago.
En Vṛndāvana hay muchas cosas viejas de más de 5,000 años.
Govardhan Hill, the footprint of Krishna. There's the slide where the boys used to slide. And if you see how that stone is worn where they slide, you have to slide on that hundreds of millions of times for that stone to become worn like this. And there's a place also called Bojantali, and that's where on the natural stones in the forest, these plates are carved out, really smooth plates, and it's there that they say Krishna often took his lunch with his friends, and they had their plates cut into the stones. It's called Bojantali.
Sí, hay muchos lugares ya, hay muchas cosas de hace más de 5,000 años en India, como la resbaladilla, que tuvo que pasar muchos miles de millones de veces ahí para que se haga resbaladiza. ¿Qué más? Como la huella de Krishna. ¿Qué más dijo?
En Bojantali, que son unas piedrotas que ya tienen formado como el plato de
Sí. Que es donde solía con sus amigos comer.
See, all right. So then the offering takes place. The Brahmins chant their mantras. All the devotees sing kirtan. And everybody goes around the temple 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, whether for hours. There are just thousands of people right now going round and round tonight, tomorrow morning. And then there is prasad distribution to all the devotees who have come to the temple, etc.
En el templo, en Radha Damodar, ahorita están miles de personas dando vueltas alrededor del templo. Unos dan 5, otros 10, otros cientos, otros todo el día, toda la noche, y ya después se toma prasada.
I'm remembering this in Radha Damodar temple.
Estoy recordando esto en el templo de Radha Damodar.
But this happens in every temple, in every house, in not just Vṛndāvana town, but the whole of the Braj, which is, I don't know, what is it, some hundreds of square kilometers, and dozens of villages, and hundreds of thousands of people, and homes and temples, and everywhere there's this Govardhana Pūjā, and then it is also celebrated around the world.
De ahí en alrededor de unos 100 metros cuadrados, 100 metros cuadrados, está haciéndose toda esta Govardhana Pūjā, esta celebración, pero también alrededor de todo el mundo.
Right. So that's a little bit of the makeup for Govardhana Pūjā.
Y esto es un poquito para
And
que
if we're
sepamos que es
ready,
Govardhana Pūjā.
we will do a Govardhana Pūjā here in Guanajuato.
Si estamos listos, pues vamos a hacer nuestra Govardhana Pūjā aquí en Guanajuato.
See?
¿Sí?
Are you ready?
¿Estamos listos? Sí.
Whenever it rains really, really hard, the devotees will say, "Oh, Indra found out where we live, coming to get us," you know.
Que cuando llueve muy muy fuerte, los devotos suelen decir, ay, creo que Indra ya vio dónde estamos viviendo.
And at this time, I think he's in Chicago.
Y creo que ahorita está en Chical, del otro lado.
It's just been raining and flooding, and Tamasopo, there were huge floods. The
Muchas
roads were washed
inundaciones.
out. The bridge in Waihula, which is the river is usually 30 feet below. The river was right up to the bottom of the bridge.
Sí. Como ahorita está lloviendo tanto que hay inundaciones en Tamasopo, en Chical, no para de llover, y en Huejutla incluso el puente se puede ver como son como unos 15, 13 metros, y ahorita está hasta el tope.
Yeah, but Krishna is protecting Guanajuato from the heavy rains and floods.
Pero Krishna está protegiendo a Guanajuato de las lluvias pesadas.
Let's see. Hare Krishna.